is here. She is from the University of Sheffield. She is there, Professor of Architecture and Design Activism, which I found very interesting to combine these two things, architecture, design, and activism. Her CV is very long, so I will just pick out some things. She studied philosophy with Jacques Derrida. She had a PhD. She has a PhD in women's studies. She was visiting professor of urban design at Harvard University, and she has a broad experience in architecture, in activism, in participation, also in issues of environmental question. So I think this is a very nice mix of different topics which show the importance of architecture as as an impact on society. Also, she realized different living labs, so the connection between science, activism, participation is one of the things which characterizes her work. So I'm very happy that you're here, and I'm looking forward to your keynote speech. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for inviting me, which is a big honor. So I will bring also a few different notions to complement the concepts that are proposed by this conference. So one is this idea of co-resilience, which in a way complements the idea of sustainability. And also I would suggest neighborhood as the locus and the scale where I think sharing practices for sustainable urban fabrics should begin. Resilience is a word which is used more and more in the context of climate change. I mean, we heard about it already a few times this morning, but also we heard a lot during COVID, now with wars, earthquakes, the economic crisis, and many other disasters. So it refers to the conditions required by a complex socio-ecological system to thrive amid uncertainty and unpredictable changes. With the latest IPCC reports on climate changes and also numerous scientific studies, we know that resilience is not only crucial for the present, but also more and more for the future. Resilience can be understood in a different way than sustainability. Sustainability somehow traditionally is associated with development and growth, which is based on equilibrium, while resilience brings a more dynamic perspective on change and address notions like adaptive capacity, transformation, transition, which I'm sure we will hear a lot during the conference about. I will introduce few resilience principles that have been put forward more than a decade ago by these guys, Lewis and Conati, in their book Resilience Imperative. So one of the principles of a system, and let's think about the neighborhood as a resilient system, is diversity, which means that greater the diversity is in the system, greater the range of future options will be. Also modularity, which means that the component parts can be modified independently of the entire system. And this means also flexibility and versatility. Connectivity means that parts of the system are connected between them, but also with other systems. The social capital is an important aspect which involves trust and dense social networks, so it's a condition for neighborhood, so to say. Overlap means redundancy of functions, and this will make the system more able to respond to disruptions. Tight feedback loops means the ability of the system to gather knowledge about its health and effectiveness quickly and reliably. And also, this aspect of ecosystem services is important because this is, the system should have the ability to recognize and support the non-priced services that nature provides, such as pollination, water purification of wetlands, and nutrient cycles, and so on. However, by the light of the capitalist logic, these are considered externalities, and their costs and functions lie outside of the market. And by consequence, someone else has to take care of, perhaps the governments, perhaps the civil society, the subaltern people, or even future generations. And of course, usually these are not taken care of as it should. Another word which is important is resourcefulness. Knowing that the resilience function now, at least at the neighborhood level, is left to communities to deal with, and the notion of resourcefulness situates resilience in a more positive light, relating it to the agency of empowerment of the community. So with resourcefulness, we understand communities as less dependent on the market and governments and more connected to their own capacities to identify and use their resources. There could be space, knowledge, and power. There is another notion that I will want to bring in, because there is this question: how do we share resources in commons, and how do we organize our response to a common crisis, which is also something that is one of the questions of this conference. And then this notion of commons, I think, can provide one answer, because it's the mode of governance of the commons that is based on care and responsibility, which is in a way the best approach for ecological repair and resilience at all levels. And this is because, as Elinor Ostrom, the Nobel Prize for Economy, demonstrated, commons governance involves agreements and shared concerns to prevent the destruction of the resources on which the members of the community are depending. And this governance needs to occur at all scales, with collective agreements and shared concerns materializing both at the planetary level and at the level of states, cities, neighborhoods, and even within collective living labs. So there are commons that we have inherited, both material and immaterial, even though that they have not always been considered or recognized as such, like the air, the ocean, different languages also. I mean, we recently start to think, debate, and act about them in this way, but not enough, including the climate. Yeah. And then there are produced commons, those that have been created either socially, such as all forms of solidarity and infrastructure, or cognitively, one example, of course, is the internet. There are also traditional commons, those called with this term since the 13th century. They are mostly rural, such as forests, rivers, pastures. Some of them are still living. There are also many other terms in different cultures. I think previously was the indigenous cultures were mentioned, and they were functioning a lot on this principle of commons. And there are also new commons, such as most digital and creative commons, which have been recently produced. But the urban commons that I will speak more about today are also produced commons that produce social, economic, and spatial forms of organization with three components: resources, which are both material and immaterial, a community of people, of commoners, but also processes of management, governance, and interaction that we can refer to as commoning processes that are based on collectively agreed rules. So, in a way, urban commons can be a key resilience factor at a smaller scale, generating local synergies and actively involving citizens. We decided that they can transform the whole resilience endeavor into a co-resilience dynamic, which is commons-based and citizen-driven. However, this process needs actors and agency, and I believe, I'm an architect, believe that architects can play an important role by leveraging their ability to design and build spaces, programs, and actions. And I will exemplify this with the example of a project that I have run with my own practice. It's a collective practice, so it's not only my work, it's a teamwork. We have started in 2011 a project called Urban, which is an open source framework for resilient urban regeneration, which is rooted in everyday life practices and commons governance. And I myself conducted a sort of practice-based research along the implementation of this framework. In fact, I have conducted this for almost 15 years, and I will try to demonstrate also that the long-term involvement is very important in co-resilience. So we have imagined this framework as an alternative to current approaches to urban regeneration, introducing co-resilience principles. And we have also involved residents, local authorities, public organizations, other professionals, and civic stakeholders with different responsibilities in the co-production and the governance of the framework. And again, the specificity is that here the architects take an active role. We were initiators, then facilitators and activators of various civic, economic, and ecological transformations. So the R from Urban stands for resilience, resourcefulness, but also for other ecological Rs, reuse, recycle, repair. And of course, we have started by designing the framework, which involve, of course, working at the scale of the neighborhood and which is, as I say, the scale where we think citizens have transformative agency and where the community can really enact its resourcefulness. So there are different components that we call them hubs, that are spaces where diverse co-resilience practices can emerge. They are diverse also in terms of programs. I mean, these are four kind of generic programs, but there could be more or different. They are based very much on what is there. The hubs also are ensuring a sort of modularity of the system, and they are organized as forms of urban commons, which means they are citizen-run. They have also independent governance, but they are connected with the other components. And these are the places where social and ecological stakeholders can emerge and different forms of practice. We call them co-resilience practices because it can be urban agricultural practice, there could be food banks, there could be cooperatives, there could be cultural initiatives. And they are ensuring the social capital because people will start to know each other, will start to collaborate. And another important aspect is the fact that they are connected through these locally closed economic and ecological circuits. Some of them are also involving ecological services. Water can be recycled locally, waste, organic waste can be recycled locally, food can be produced locally, energy can be produced locally in this way. And these are visible, and people are also benefiting directly of the consequence of these loops. We have started by infrastructuring this framework that embeds, let's say, co-resilience principles, and we were in contact with the municipality of Colombes, which is a suburban town in north of Paris, northwest of Paris, with quite mixed urban fabric, with a high rate of unemployment, but also a diverse population, and a lot of civic organizations which are important. So all these were assets important for urban. The fact that there was a high unemployment rate meant that people want to reskill themselves and to create jobs, to change. And also we have obtained a Life Plus fund for environmental governance, which was very important because with this we were starting a kind of first network of hubs in Colombes, 3 of them, one which was about urban agriculture, another about recycling and eco-construction, and another was about cooperative housing. And this was the one about recycling, which was installed on a road that was closed and transformed into a parking. And we have used this configuration with all the constraints that this involved to create this space, which involved spaces for repair. So this is an image from a repair cafe, but also more professional workshops and a space for designers. The other was Agrocité in Colombes, which was, again, on public land, so the municipality provided the land which was available for, we were told, 10 years, issued from demolition of a number of pavilions, and still in the core of a mass housing estate. We have built, we were very keen that we use the architect's means and architecture as a way of passing on the message. So we have used, biosource material from the area, also we have recycled and reused some of the material in construction. We have also imagined a spatial configuration that allowed also passive heating, multifunctional spaces, like this is an image from the greenhouse, which is at the same time a meeting room and a workshop space, where there is this fluidity of space to have lots of users of different kinds in co-presence, doing different things together. And prototyping and experimenting was also one important aspect or principle. So we have prototyped a number of eco devices, like this one, for example. We have depolluted the gray water, building a phytofiltration device, which was unique. So we had to go to the whole process of approvals, and this somehow established a precedent that could be used by others. And also it brought a different type of landscape, which is quite interesting with different type of plants that will grow, and it had, of course, all these devices had also an educative dimension. So we had also a compost heating device. So we have kind of created compost, and at the same time use the heat to heat the green space, the glass house which was just above. So we had also green walls and a green roof, which was also productive. We had also a smart irrigation system for the inaccessible places, like the roof, for example. We collected the rainwater in this technical level, and the rainwater, of course, was used for watering the garden. But also, we have studied the quality of soil and the nature of the ground in order to provide the best and the most efficient watering system. So we have worked with an ecologist about this, and the same with cultivation, because there was land issued from demolition, so we were very careful with the quality of the soil and the kind of planting and harvesting system. And also very important, the governance, because we set up a community around this project in a way, and also a governance system that started with self-organized meetings, but also with a number of workshops with specialists to start to co-design the functions of the hubs. And we have also started different sessions that were run by inhabitants, in which their skills were, and their resources were valorized. We had also run a number of research projects in which they were co-researchers. They were also involved in the communications. Here we are fabricating the labels, for example, for the products that were also conceived on site. And at the same time, it was very important to evolve also the knowledge. So we have we had a kind of pedagogical program also with conferences and lectures. There were also lots of things that will involve different ages. And at the end, it was important to set up also the economic aspect, because I think the social aspect without the economic doesn't make this resilient and sustainable. So there was a local shop and a cafe also where a canteen was run, a farm market where some of the products were sold, but also a local farmer will come and deliver his products from time to time. And of course, training and the mutual help aspect and the seminars were important. In Reci Club, there was a repair cafe, also recycling workshops, an eco-design residence. So there were designers at different moments. Also, we were coaching different groups to emerge and set up their economic plan. And also there were moments of participative pedagogy, and we set up also a local material database. And this is a story. It's Yvonne who was interested in worm compost. He didn't have a space for this, so he will grow his worms in his cave. And then we set up a worms farm for him, and he set up a compost school, and he got accreditation for this, and he formed other compost masters. One is Benoit, who started to work with the municipality and to set up also compost stations in different places in the neighborhood, and other kind of economic initiatives were around the local market. There was a beekeeper that was hosted there, so we had a bee farm as well. And somehow we have accompanied the kind of emergent stakeholders, economic stakeholders in the area. And at the end, amongst the three hubs that one was just started, so it has never been finished, the cooperative housing. What we plan is to have these results, which are a form of impact, so to say, of this initiative, with 20 new jobs created, with an important quantity of carbon and waste reduction per year, with electricity produced locally, with this 40% of the ecological footprint reduction. Very important, 400 active stakeholders. So these were citizens that were active in the neighborhood, and also much more just users. However, with all this, we realized that part of, let's say, of a resilient approach is also to learn how to resist and to adapt. And there was a change in municipality. So the municipality that we were partnered with there were local elections, and they lost the elections, and there was a new municipality. And the former one was green and socialist. This one was right-wing, and they claimed back the land to build a car park. And of course, this created a big scandal, because in a way, we realized also that urban commons are depending on political goodwill, and they are not also protected by law. So we had started a campaign against the city, and they took us in court. They took us in court, I mean, us was in this case the whole organization that was formed around the project. So there were protests, there were, a number of few thousand signature on a petition. However, we lost because the law, doesn't protect commons, and the municipality was considered that has its right to claim back public land. So, what we had, they evicted us, and they started their parking lot that was not even touching the Agrocité footprint. This is what they built instead. However, we managed to fight in a different way, in a more resilient way maybe, and we have also learned from this Aikido technique that sometimes you do not have to oppose the aggressor, but to go along the situation and find a way to move forward. And we have contacted another municipality, which was the neighbor municipality, and they offered us a different space, which was exactly the opposite situation, because it was a parking lot, and we had to build over it, and we have started to repair and reuse the infrastructures that was designed because we knew that the land will be available only for 10 years, so we built for reconstruction, and this was very useful, and this is a resilient principle. So we have dismantled and reused the Agrocité infrastructure, which reduced even more the ecological footprint. You can see this was in the first installment, we have reduced it by 40%, and now we have reduced it even more because we have reused most of the elements. And then we have reconstructed it with the users. Now they were the advocates of the project. And they enacting this very important kind of principle, which is caring, which is somehow everything that we do to maintain and continue and repair our world in a way that we can live in it as well as possible, as Tronto said. And this includes our bodies, but also our environment and the things that we have done together. And they were now those that were explaining to the newcomers what is Agrocité and what can be for them. Some of them have been involved in the reconstruction, and this was the opening of the new Agrocité, which is now like this, in a context which is even more needing than the former one, the presence of such a facility. And it's a way also of regenerating this grand ensemble that were built following the Athens urban chart, with green spaces in between that are not useful anymore, so no one is taking care of this unless you create a unit in which all these people can come and have projects together and also take care of their neighborhood. And we started also to imagine ways of disseminating, multiplying, and scaling. I mean, the scandal that was published in the press made us known, and we had a lot of demands from other municipalities to build such hubs. So this is a protocol of how to set up an urban hub with the idea that you start with a group of users and then set up a sort of convention of land use and land occupation, and then obtain money from different sources to build the infrastructure, and then give back this infrastructure as a common good, either to the municipality or to the organization itself. And then in this way, there was another hub in London this time that has been set up by Public Works, which, because of the, let's say, land use condition in London, could not be built as such, so it was mobile and it was roaming in a neighborhood, and then activating or in collaboration with different local organizations. At a certain moment, they found a place where they installed the mobile parts. They experimented with other type of devices, ecological devices, like this biodigester, for example, that is producing energy for the communities, and biogas also. We had to move Recyclab also from Colombes to Nanterre for the same reasons, in fact. And then we reinstalled it. It was even easier to reinstall this one because it was based on containers and prefabricated elements, and it now kind of hold an ecological park just next at La Défense. We built a new agrocité in Bagneux, in the south of Paris, which is again a sort of mini urban farm, but also a Recyclab, which is now a Fab Lab. And you can see that it's on the same side, which is next to a gymnasium, where all the ecological loops are kind of visible on site. This is how it looks like, with a beautiful view. There is also a governance model that we set up in Bagneux, which was how to start with the funders and an association, a number of organizations, local organizations in the beginning, and then create a group of users around the project. The user will start to be organized around common interest, and then all these colleges will be represented in the board, and there will be an executive board as well. So this was a way of managing democratically a hub. We have also co-written with the city a charter for the common good preservation of the hubs, and then we have signed it. And this, now the hubs are not public goods, are common goods. And it's interesting to see, you know, I mean, men are running wars, and women can also run other type of transactions. It was a chance to have this, you know, there is the mayor and the deputy mayor for ecology that were enabling this. We have obtained, well, we were awarded one of the new European Bauhaus awards in 2020 for 2022 for reconnecting with nature. But also we have applied for a competition which was Reinventing Paris, imagining a much bigger hub, a cluster of hubs, if you want, that will work at a regional level, at the Parisian region level, which was a cluster for ecological innovation with this idea of having different type of programs that are all clustered together with ecological circuits that are organized vertically now, and with also an architecture that is exhibiting all these ecological loops. We didn't win on that side, but we won on a different side in the 20th arrondissement, the same thing, which was, of course, adapted, and now it has been built. It's called Wiki Village, and it's in the 20th arrondissement. So at the moment, we have 8 civic hubs plus this cluster that has been built. And I think this raises the question how these clusters are working together. And we are at this stage in which we can imagine the possibility of having a urban civic trust. And it was also important to evaluate and demonstrate the value of such an approach. And we worked with community economist, Catherine Gibson. So Catherine has coined this image about community economy, so representing economy as an iceberg, where what we call economy now is just the visible part of the iceberg, which is, so to say, the market economy, but all this is not monetized, it's invisible, and it's very important, it's the biggest part of the iceberg. So we have calculated our iceberg after 5 years of Urban, the first installment in Colombe, looking at the value that we have also, the value that has been produced in the project. So we looked at the architectural value, the economic value, the ecological value, and however, we have taken into account not only the direct revenues, that were monetized, but also the value of unpaid labor, the value of, so the different nuances of color are representing this type of values, the values of increased skills, what people learn, they would have paid training otherwise, but also the ecological value. So what money have been saved for the state or for the planet for the ecological repair that has been done. You have seen different activities that are exemplifying this, and we have calculated this every year, and it was important to see that this invisible value is growing exponentially in time, and we claim that, I think we translated it in money because we wanted to speak to developers, to municipalities, about the value of land when such projects are run, and the fact that instead of selling this to a developer, you maybe give it to a community that will produce this value that grows in time. And I think it's an important work for advocating about such an approaches. And it's clear that we should not probably wait only for global decisions and actions. We know that from this climate summit, not much has been done. However, maybe we can still immediately start and act together in our neighborhoods, as I have tried to demonstrate. And in this way, perhaps, we can contribute to this immense, spend that is needed to limit the global warming. But by our own action, by our own engagement, and we can cover in a different way the cost of ecological transition. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. We have no time for some questions.
Thank you for the presentation. I have a question for you, Dr. Florian. When I was on the train yesterday, I went to Berlin Center City, and I was happy to see all the tower cranes. There's a lot of construction going on, which is a great economic indicator. I also went through a town called Planter World, I think it's called. Yeah, it was very similar to some of the pictures that I've seen here. Can you talk about the history of that little area? Because there were very smaller houses in a very garden environment. And then it was very, the boundaries were set. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. We have here in Germany something which is called Schrebergarten, which is like public land which is rented for people to grow up their own plants. So the idea, this emerged from after the war, people didn't have things to eat, so they have some small lots, and the idea is to grow their own food. It's quite cheap to rent these kind of areas, and they are normally part of an association. So these are not regular housing, but it's like holiday housing, but they are applied to produce food. So this is kind of a special situation. Right now there's the question if these kind of areas should be transformed into construction land, because, well, there is a lot of them. On the other hand, I like really the idea of the economy as an iceberg. These kind of areas produce a lot because, it's recreation, it's also contact to nature, it's affordable for people who don't have big houses with big gardens, so it's an important issue of how to interact with nature. And there are a lot of these areas around Berlin or even in more or less central cities.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's not a question. Maybe I can add on a little bit. I've heard from very old people in Germany that this garden was also part of the prescription in the doctor office in 1780, when you have a lot of stress, and doctor prescribed as go to the garden and release stress.
Yeah. In our calculations, we have taken this into account. People were testimonying that they are going less often to the doctor, so this will be an economy of their budgets, and also it's better for the state as well, because they are not paying for their leaves, sick leaves, and so on. So all these are not counted usually, but they are important. They are there, and it's very important to take all these aspects into account, all this value that is created and is not counted yet. We have started to count carbon emission, for example, so now carbon has become a sort of trade unit. Maybe in the future we'll count other things as well, including the social cohesion, production, the health aspects, and so on.
I imagine they're fighting the developers from coming in, because an area of 5 houses, if you built a 5-story apartment complex,
yeah,
it would really house a lot of people. I imagine the developers are trying to get in there.
Yeah, but this is also creating pollution and creates other things. So I think it's important to always have the alternative of what you can do with the space otherwise, and what is the most important for the neighborhood, not only for a private developer.
Yeah.
Thank you, that was really interesting. I wanted to ask about the change in government, including, so obviously you've created something that's involving a lot of the local community, making people feel like they have opportunities, maybe in developing a better sense of community. That obviously works as like a microcosm, but then the wider population goes to elect a right-wing government around the same time. Do you think there's anything else that can be done to involve more of the local population, maybe try to offset that rebellion against what you're trying to create?
Of course, I mean, it was just a prototype, so to say, a model or an example, and it was very important to demonstrate that it works. But there are lots of spaces like this in mass housing estates, and if the municipality, let's say, give land for free, and also support with rules and regulations access to space, and if the community also learn from other successful projects about how to govern the space collectively, because of course it's not easy, there are lots of conflicts, people do not have the culture, I mean, also because they are coming from so diverse backgrounds of managing together, and I think this is also something that needs to be learned and needs to be encouraged and supported. And you know, more you have municipalities, I also think that the small kind of towns municipalities are very important because they are more agile than kind of metropolitan municipalities. They need to be aware and kind of support in through policy and regulations, and also funding, not much, but at least for the infrastructuring, such initiatives, so this can be done. And of course, there is a lot to be done also in terms of legislation, you know, and also the recognition of the value that is created by this type of projects. So we need a change in perceiving, let's say, the economic value, and also a change in what is protected in terms of legislation. Yeah, commons are not protected, so the common use is not protected. And for us, for example, in this case in Kurt that we at the end lost, but we could win. I mean, we were very close. It was very important to set up a precedent that then can become a jurisprudence for others. And it is in this way that you modify laws.
Maybe if you create like 10 times as many jobs or something.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. But also, you know, what you mean by job. It's a different thing that we propose. So there are not necessarily full-time jobs. There are sometimes self-employment, but also voluntary jobs that are also creating value. There were people that were retired or that were under unemployment wages, but they were still active, you know, creating value that will, at the end, I would say, multiply their budget. Kelly.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much, Lana, for your presentation. I just want to ask you for the conclusive sentence you've written here. It indicated that half of the global population participate in these kind of practices. Can you please explain what it means exactly?
Yeah, well, we have calculated, I mean, so the whole calculation is missing here, which was in in the manifesto, based on this iceberg that I have shown, based on the value that is created, and if you are adding this up, you know, if 5,000 people are creating such value in 5 years as we calculated, then it's quite a simple calculation. Half of the global population will create this 40,000 billion in 3 years' time. Of course, this is what is needed to limit the global warming. I mean, this will pay, so to say, the technological innovation that is needed, the implementation of, different, the change in energy system. But we were, of course, in a utopian way, claiming that also people and their behavior and their way of living can also contribute to this cost. It's just that this cost, the value that they are producing is not considered in this cost. It's not extremely precise, and you should not take it as a, let's say, a scientific claim. It's more an extrapolation based on the work that we have done, which is utopian, but only half.
Maybe I have a question next for the presentation. Do you think if you're, as you're demonstrating, increasingly political structures are not reliable anymore, and the increased polarization makes it really difficult, do you think the private sector would be a better context for these sort of projects, and more reliable? Would that also work to create commons within a private structure? Or does it have to be in the public sphere still?
Yeah, I think we cannot exclude the private sector for sure, but I think it's probably to fully rely on the private sector would be just continuing business as usual. I definitely think that the private sector can have a role, but not the major role in all this. And the civic sector, I think, has to grow and has to be empowered to take much more leadership in this ecological transition. But, all sectors have a role to play, knowing that the private sector will probably step down. The public sector has to reinforce itself reform itself, and the civic sector has to be much more powerful and become also an economic actor.
Thanks a lot.
Congratulations on the wonderful work that you've been doing. And I just had some questions on the practical way. How big is the organization, and how does it get funded, and how come you got so much done in Paris being in Sheffield?
As I said, it was important to have some funding to start the infrastructuring of the project. I mean, this was our approach. There might be other approaches, but we thought that it's important to have a space which is organized in a way that supports the emergent kind of practices. And for this, we got European funding, but also, at least for the first hubs that we built, for the other, we got several type of local funding, regional funding. It was not easy because there were always different pots that you would put together, and you need someone that knows this, knows how to do this. In this case, it was us, but we have trained others, and now there are organization running the hubs, that they continue to secure funding in this way for different programs. They also started different type of economic activities. So the Recyclab in Bagneux, for example, has an economic activity. So they managed to cover part of their jobs. But there could be structural funds. I mean, we have tried to do this, and we didn't succeed until now. But this doesn't mean that you know, some of the funds for development can be redirected for such organization. I think what is important is to demonstrate their sustainability and viability, and this is work to be done.
Okay, thanks a lot. Very interesting. Also, the endurance of these labs, because there are a lot of initiatives going on. But I think this is one initiative which has already a lot of years of going on and developing, and I think this is a big challenge for all these kind of
This is a big
maintain
challenge.
it.
I would say that not the same people have to carry this on, but it's very important to make sure that the transmission is in place, and then you know, someone else can take over and has all the means and knowledge to do this, and this is very important for us. I mean, how we plan our exit from all this.
So we have now a coffee break until 11, and then we will meet.
So there,
Sorry.
So we have coffee at the back, and the talking circles will be in the 2 rooms. So there's 2 rooms. When you came in, directly opposite, you'll see there is 2 rooms, and we'll be in those. So once we're finished, I will guide you over. So grab a cup of coffee. Can we take coffee over with us, or we leave the cups here? No.
I